Okay, so this is module number 6, which is entitled Change. And this is where we move from having cultivated mindfulness for the first 5 modules into now applying mindfulness. So we have been, up to this point, we've been training this attentional muscle of mindfulness, the stability, the clarity, the relaxed focus of mindfulness. And now we will use that ability to kind of zoom into our own experience, the nature of our own reality, which is a very good way of gaining some insight into how things actually are, rather than being, as we usually are, caught in our own ideas about how things should be or ought to be, or how they were yesterday, or how we're hoping they would be. So it's really mindfulness is an extremely good tool to gain some clarity and wisdom in our lives. So that's what we are going to start with today. But I thought, like usual, it might be a good idea to maybe just do a short recap, a short repeat of what we've been doing this far. And the first 3 sessions, we were cultivating mindfulness using the breathing as an object. So for the first session, we focused on the full sensation of the breath in the body. And we used this also as a way of really cultivating relaxation, as a way of counteracting our tendency to really tense and struggle and strive when we start to do meditation, and especially when we start to do shamatha, or focus meditation. So that was the first session, really this very soothing, relaxing, full body breathing meditation. And then for session 2, we moved on to the next quality, which was then stability or focus. So this was then to counteract a very distracted mind. So we want to have a mind that is stable and stays where we put it. So then we narrowed the focus, and we used the sensations in the abdomen of the breath. So our object of focus became a bit smaller, thus strengthening this ability to stabilize our attention and have it stay on a specific object. So that was the second session. Then we moved on to, still keeping with the breathing, we moved on to the nostrils. And by doing so, we made the object of our meditation more subtle and smaller, like a smaller target for our attention. So what was needed then was a greater degree of clarity, of vividness, which was the quality we wanted to cultivate in that session, as a way of counteracting a tendency that we might have to become dull, or maybe spaced out and not so attentive. So those 3 sessions were about relaxation, focus, and clarity. And we had this, I used this metaphor of a tree, with the roots of the tree being the relaxation going really deep into the ground. And that is the foundation for all meditation. There is no meditation where you don't want to show up with a really relaxed body and mind, because then you will just end up spending lots of energy and draining yourself and not progressing. And then we had the stability was like the root of the tree that then allowed for the branches of clarity to really grow tall and wide. So those were the three main qualities. Then in the fourth session, we were still doing this shamatha or mindfulness meditation, but we changed the object from the body or the breathing, and we made our own minds the object of attention. So what previously had been the distractions that we just simply let go of. So when we focus on the breathing, a thought comes up, we just let it go, let it pass. But now instead we turned all those thoughts and the memories and the impulses and the emotions and so on, we turned all those things into the object of attention. So by doing this, we cultivate this position of really being an observer to our own mind. So whatever comes up, we can just observe it with focus, again, clarity, stability, relaxation, but we just observe it, we let it come, we let it go, and we don't cling on to anything. And this is really extremely helpful because it allows us to not be so caught up in the turmoil of our mind, and we become less of a slave of our own mind and more of a master of our own mind in the way that we can really observe things going on, all the craziness that happens all the time, without clinging to it, without reacting to it, without being pulled away by it. And then last module, which was module 5, we made the object of our focus training, our mindfulness training, our shamatha training, we made that awareness itself. So this is even a bit more subtle than observing the mind or the movements of the mind. So instead we started to observe awareness itself. So just resting in this the simple experience of just being aware. And then we might have noticed that awareness in itself is always clear, it's always still, it's always unmoving, and we can kind of rest in that stillness. And the more we do that, the more we gain access to that position in everyday life, sometimes called stillness in motion. So even though everything is moving, our thoughts are moving, the world around us is moving, we still have this position where we can just rest, where there is clarity and calm in the middle of everything that's going on. So both these two, when we observe the mind and when we observe or rest in awareness, those are still shamatha practices. But at the same time, when we start to do that, we also start to get some insights into how our mind actually works, just by simply observing. So those two practices is also a bridge into what we will do this and the two coming modules, which is then vipassana practice or insight practice. So starting today, we will actually look into more with a little bit of a question or a little bit of an inquiry. We will look into our own experience, and there are 3 things specifically that we'll look into. So today, like I said, this module is entitled Change. So today we will look into the impermanent nature of, well, everything. So I don't know, is there, can you come up with anything that is not changing? Is there anything in the world? Can you name one thing that is not changing? I give you $1 million if you can name one thing that doesn't change. And intellectually, we all know this. So if we take if you just take anything, like my hand, for example. So intellectually, we know that there's a lot of change happening, but that's not how we experientially relate to things. Our habitual way of relating to things is to expect them to be the same tomorrow. We expect them to last, and we get very upset when they change. And when I look at my hand, I cannot perceive a lot of change, but intellectually I know that there's the blood is moving through my hand. There are cells are splitting. There are molecules here that are rushing around, moving all the time. Within those molecules, there are atoms that are whooshing around with electrons, and so it's just an amazing amount of stuff happening and moving. And of course, if we sit here long enough, you will just see my hand grow thinner and thinner, and then just disappear eventually if we wait long enough. So intellectually, we know that things change all around us all the time, but again, experientially, we don't relate to things that way. And we can easily prove this, because this also creates a lot of suffering for us. So whenever we get a new iPhone, for example, we get very excited, very happy. It's the latest model, and then it doesn't take too long and there will be a scratch on the screen, or the new model will come out, or someone will drop it and break it completely, and then we get really upset. We suffer because our iPhone is broken. But really, if we had understood impermanence completely, that would not come to as a surprise at all. And intellectually, it's no surprise, but emotionally, it's like an insult. How dare this phone break on me? But that's the only thing it could ever do. It was clear from the beginning. As soon as someone put it together, the change was really already built into it, because it's in the nature of change, like everything else. So it's easy to observe how the fact that things break or end or change, become damaged or broken, or we lose our job, or whatever happens, those things make us suffer because we are not accepting the reality of change. So the point of doing the meditation that we will do today is to really start to move this intellectual understanding more into the heart and chest and gut. So by starting to observe our own experience with more clarity, with more mindfulness, see how things change all the time, from moment to moment, how everything is in this state of constant flux and constant movement, and this way we can start to get a more realistic view on a emotional and a experiential and a habitual level, so that we can instead of fighting against the constant flow of life, we can kind of start to use that flow and work with that flow. So there's this metaphor of someone, afloat in the middle of a river. The river is rushing forward, and they pass some little island that they think is nice, and they try to hold on to it, and they're expending all this energy, and they just have to let go because the river just keeps flowing, and something floats by, and they try to hold on to that, but it sooner or later you have to let it go because this current is just rushing on, and we're kind of like people in that river. So we can either relax and just float along and enjoy the ride, and whatever is there, it's amazing, wonderful. But we don't try to cling on to it, because if we do, we just end up spending lots of energy to no good use whatsoever. So I don't know, does that metaphor make sense?
Don't push the river, it floats by itself.
Exactly, it does. And if you try to go against it, that's like fighting with reality. So and I guess that's another way of putting it. Don't fight with reality. It's a fight that we're bound to lose, but we keep trying. So yeah. So at the same time, it's not true that we don't suffer because of change. That's not why we suffer. We suffer because we resist change. It's the resistance that's the problem. Change is just change. Because if we use change, if things didn't change, we could never improve. If we have bad habits, we could never turn them into better habits. Or if we make a mistake, we could never go back and say, I'm sorry, because things would be static and fixed and unchanging. Flowers wouldn't grow, whatever. So it's incredibly amazing that things change. So we don't suffer because of change. We suffer because we resist change, and we suffer because we're not in tune with the reality of change. So in the meditation I will be doing, the plan is to go into different modes of our experience, and then just simply observe, are those changing or are they static? And not like an intellectual exercise, but rather like looking directly at our own experience, and then just seeing for ourselves, does this stay the same or does it change? And just really being very open and try to stay with the direct experience of our perceptions, our thoughts, etc. So we'll go through, the Buddha taught what's called the 4 applications of mindfulness, and the first application is the body. The second application is our feelings, and the third, is the mind, and then the fourth is phenomena at large. So we'll kind of use that model, but we'll start by, first we'll go through the tactile field in the body, tactile sensations. Then we'll go through the visual field with eyes open. Then we'll close our eyes and go through the auditory field, the sounds. And then we'll end by just resting in open awareness and observing whatever appears to the mind, which could be thoughts and feelings, sensations, but also all the other things. And for each one of these domains, we'll just rest there for a while, and then see for ourselves if we can detect whether things seem to be static or changing. And keep an open mind also, because actually for all these that we'll go through, it might be more or less obvious. So really try to have a beginner's mind and look for yourselves, like not like you have an intellectual understanding before, but just pose an open question and then we'll see what happens. Okay. Yeah, so any questions otherwise, or any concerns or questions, comments? You ready to go into meditation? Okay. Okay, so start by just allowing your attention to drop into your body. Noticing if there is any tension or tightness. And using the out breath to really release and relax, to let go completely. Feeling happy that for these minutes you are giving yourself your full attention, giving yourself your own care and concern. soft and soothing. Using the breathing to stabilize your attention. Bringing clarity to your experience. While remaining relaxed and at ease. Then you can let go of the specific focus on the breathing and just tend to the entire field of tactile sensations, sensations in the body. Just observe what's happening in your body right now. And then see if you can notice whether there is anything in that experience that is static or unchanging, or if everything is changing moment to moment. Just look directly. And then I'll ask you to open your eyes, either fully or slightly, and then start to attend to the visual field, the field of visual impressions and experiences. And as you do, see if you can Again, notice anything that is static and unchanging, or whether everything is changing moment by moment. And then you can close your eyes again and instead turn your attention to the auditory field, to the sounds that you hear. So really paying close attention to the sounds that you experience. See if you can notice whether any of them are static, unchanging, or if they seem to be changing moment by moment. And don't make it an intellectual exercise, but rather look directly into your experience. See for yourself. And then you can release the auditory field and instead turn your attention to the feeling tone of your experience. So the experience of positive or negative or neutral emotions or feelings. That feeling tone that is always present, like a scent in the air or like a background. So attending to your own feelings, see if you can notice whether they seem to be static, unchanging, or if they seem to be changing from moment to moment. And then finally, we can broaden our attention. So just observing anything that appears to our mind, be it thoughts or memories, impulses, also sounds and sensations. Just resting in open awareness. Attending to whatever appears. And then again, see if you can find anything that is static, unchanging, or whether everything seems to be changing moment by moment.